What is up, everyone? This is Ronnie, your host of the Ronnie Asani Show. My number one goal in this show is to bring you some of the most amazing and accomplished individuals in the business world to share with you some real, raw, and authentic business insights.
Look, it's super important, and cannot wait to talk with all my guests. Incredible. Let's do this.
We sit down and talk in a casual setting, nothing too serious, yet we unpack some of the most incredible ideas, concepts, and best practices. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh, and don't forget to share the love. Like, share, and subscribe. Gracias, amigos. Hey folks, today's guest is Peter Stohkorb, an international B2B sales specialist. Peter works with B2B CEOs, business owners, sales and marketing leaders on how to sell more and faster in today's competitive environment. He also wrote a couple of books on sales and marketing. We sit down today to talk about his sales funnel methodology and how to use sales funnels to bring in more business and increase your sales. Peter.
Yes.
Great to have you.
Well,
thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
I reached out to you, I think it was last week. End of the week before.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And had a look at your LinkedIn profile. Blown away. It's like, this man needs to be in the podcast. So.
Well, I'm here now, Ronnie.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you.
So you've obviously been in sales for a very, very long time. You have these two amazing sales books, and you've been working with a lot of businesses and companies and people, training them, helping them uplift their sales capabilities. So obviously this is what we're going to talk about today, and more specifically about sales funnels.
Yes.
But I think before we go into the specifics, maybe we can just quickly go over, a bit about your background, what you've been up to, maybe, I don't know, how far back you want to go, 5 years, 10 years, up to you. And then, we'll go from there.
Well, I can go back a long way, so let's not do that.
All right, up to you.
Look, I'll start with just by saying that I had probably 20 years in the corporate sector, and I started and sold a couple of my own businesses. So I know the SME space, and I know the corporate multinational organization space as well.
Yep.
I always worked in either on the sales side or on the marketing side, and sometimes overlapping in the same organization as well. And after 20 years of doing that, I spotted plenty of ways to do it right, and even more ways of getting selling wrong.
Yep.
And I decided that I wanted to do something about it, and so I started my own business in 2013, and it's now called Peter Strohkorb Advisory.
Yep.
I'd like to advise people on how to accelerate their selling, and my slogan is more sales faster.
Yep. Cool. All right. So, going back. So you spotted a lot of ways. I guess you can call it best practices, ways of, selling better. And I guess sales in general is one of those fields where it varies from a business to a business in some ways, but the foundations and the core principles of it can be applied anywhere.
Yeah, and let's just preface it by saying that I specialize in B2B.
Cool.
Right? So if you talk to me about retail,
no,
I can't really help you. But
cool.
B2B, and in particular anything to do with B2B services,
yep,
or technology. So I'm a specialist in that, and I call myself a sales acceleration specialist advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So I specialize in how to accelerate your selling, and advise you on that. So I work with business owners, with CEOs, and with sales leaders.
Okay, cool. Amazing. All right, well, let's go straight into it. What is the sales funnel? And a lot of people watching might probably already know what it is, but some might not know. So let's kind of like dive into it a little bit. What is it and why we need it?
Okay. So the traditional sales funnel, the one that was invented in 1898.
Okay. I didn't know it went far back to that. Yeah.
Most people think, 70s, 80s, last millennium, last century. But actually, if you look it up, 1898 was the day when it was invented, and it was a brilliant concept at the time, right? Now, 120 years later, maybe things have changed a little bit, so we'll talk about that. But let me explain the traditional sales funnel, right?
Sure.
So we have a funnel, and just imagine it's got some leaks in it. So we pour water in it, and water comes out again. So if we don't pour water in it, but we put sales leads into it, then you put the sales leads in the top. The sales leads get nurtured, sometimes by marketing, sometimes by salespeople themselves. Advanced, handed over to sales, then progressed, and then eventually a sale will drop out.
Yep.
Right? So that's the traditional sales funnel. Nothing really wrong with that, except that it's very generic. It's very broad, and my biggest gripe is it's focused on how we want to sell, and it's measuring our progress in terms of the sale that we're making, and nowhere in sight is anything to do with the customer.
Yep.
And I really have this belief that people don't want to be sold to anymore. I really think they didn't ever want to be sold to, but we kind of got away with it in 2018 and 2019 and before the pandemic. Nowadays, people are even more sensitized to being ambushed by some cold call, by unsolicited emails.
Let me just say this. I hate cold calls. There's no one, like if I get a cold call and they're a bit too pushy, I might have to meditate for the rest of the day.
but let me drill down on that, right? You can tell where they're coming from, that call.
Yep.
They have totally got their own sales target in mind, and they don't really care to a degree what damage they're causing on the other side, as long as they get their sales.
Yep.
That's really what comes across, isn't it? Now, how does that make you as a potential buyer feel?
Oh, well, I immediately feel like they're just doing something to get money out of me.
They're selfish. They're looking at themselves. There's nothing in it for you. I mean, most of the time, they don't even know whether you're in the market for the thing that they're selling.
Exactly.
Right? It's just a spray and pray numbers game, right?
Yeah.
So we've established that nobody likes that approach anymore.
Yep,
right?
of course.
And so I've been thinking about what would be the right way to do it, right? What would bring you success? And before I reveal that solution, let me just say that because this traditional way does not work anymore, people have been instead of changing the way, what they've been doing is they just say, oh, well, we'll just do more, right? So now they're amplifying the negative effect that you're getting from it by bombarding even more people with stuff that they don't know whether anybody needs it. And the effect that has on the buyer is that they just retreat to the point where they may end up saying to you, no matter what you're selling, I'm not interested, right? So it's actually ruining the sales game for everybody because the buyer's going, no matter what you're selling, I'm not interested.
Yep.
That's really bad for the buyers and for the vendors. And
it's
for
just
the
a bad
industry.
experience for everyone.
Everyone, right? So doing more of something that doesn't work is just crazy.
Well, yeah, I think some people look at the numbers. I worked in sales operations for a couple of years and was working alongside salespeople, sales director, and part of my role was to look at analytics of performance of sales and all that stuff. And I'm quite familiar with that. And I think one of the things that people might do is that they look at some numbers and say, okay, well, it's kind of working, right? Oh, we're getting conversion rate of, 2%. So every 100 people we call, we get 2. So let's just make them 200. Well, okay. What if you can make the same 100 calls, but get 10?
That's one side of the argument.
Yeah.
The other one is what happens to the other 98 that didn't take you up on your offer?
Yep.
Right. The effect that has on them. Because they go, I'm not taking any more of those calls ever.
Yep.
Right? Or I'm deleting those emails, or I'm sending them straight to spam.
Or complaining, making a complaint.
Yeah, making a complaint.
Yeah.
So it becomes even harder to reach the people that you want to reach out to.
Yep.
Right. So I think we've established that is not the best way to sell.
100%. Yeah. Sure.
So I've been doing a lot of thinking about how can we turn it around and actually make a buying experience pleasant for a buyer.
Yeah.
And you've already heard the word buying mentioned, so that we've actually got to turn our mindset around from how can we sell
to buy.
to how can we help a buyer to buy,
Mm.
right? Now that's a much softer approach, and it'll probably mean that you have to be more targeted in your approach, and
Yep.
instead of spamming 1,000 people, you might just reach out to a smaller number, but go deeper
Yep.
with them.
Yep.
It also means that you probably have to do your homework first
Mm.
before reaching out to them, so that you have some inkling of whether they're a likely target for you or not.
Mm.
Right? So I've seen in CRM systems and in marketing automation systems, I've seen that people now call cold email lists, they call them leads.
Yeah.
Right? To me, a lead is not a lead until you've actually spoken to somebody and ascertained, that there's some interest there.
Exactly.
Right?
There has to be some interest.
Otherwise, it's just a suspect, not even a prospect.
Suspect.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you go from suspect to prospect to customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you have a list of suspects and you just bombard them, we've already covered this. You don't get anywhere. So you really want to turn them into prospects and nurture them and get them interested. Right?
Absolutely.
So that means that you now have to turn the sales funnel around to actually making it a buying funnel.
Yep.
Right?
I like it.
And so instead of the classical stages of, put the leads in, nurture the lead, hand them over, advance the lead, and then the sale drops out, I've identified 10 steps in the new modern sales funnel that's more customer focused and ready for the 2020s.
Yeah. And before we go into that, I think what you just said is, and have changed and done is genius, because you made it about the customer.
That's the key.
Not about me.
Yeah.
Right. It's a mindset transformational sort of approach where the salesperson, the organization, whoever's trying to sell anything, I'm not looking at it anymore as I'm selling something. I'm helping like you said, a buyer buying. And we all know marketing and sales and marketing that is focused on the customer is a much more effective sales and marketing capability. So I think that's really interesting and good. So are we ready to go through the funnel steps,
Okay,
or do you want to add in a little bit
I
more?
will go through it in a minute, but just let me say this. When you ask any sales leader or a CEO in any organization, when you ask them, how customer focused are you? What answer will you get?
Very.
Okay. If that were really true, you would never pressure a customer to buy.
Of course.
And the customer would never sense your sense of urgency at the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year. Right? So if you really truly want to be customer focused and customer centric, then you've got to also turn your mindset around from, oh my God, we've got all these products, how can we sell them? To, wow, wonderful, we've got all these prospects, how can we help them to buy from us? We don't just want to help them to buy, we want to help them to buy from us.
Yep.
Right? Which is important.
Yep.
So in order to do that, there are 10 clear things you need to get right. In order to guide, it's kind of like a funnel as well, but it's a different funnel because it's the buyer's funnel, not the seller's funnel.
And now, is that funnel called, do you have a specific name for it that is proprietary or anything?
So I was thinking of giving it a name like the Smarketing funnel, because Smarketing is the title of one of my books, which combines sales and marketing.
Yep.
Because I believe that both sales and marketing should be focused on the customer, and that gives them a common ground to work on and a common goal to work towards. I have called it simply the modern sales funnel because I didn't want it to make it too complicated.
Yep.
I have been toying with the idea of calling it the buyer's sales funnel. Yep. Buying funnel. But the problem with all that is that you got to explain the name first before you can talk about the subject matter. So I'm just calling it the modern sales funnel for now.
Cool. Or maybe infuse your name in it so that it becomes
Peter Strohkorb's modern funnel. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, that's cool. I guess let's go straight into it.
Okay. So number one is, imagine you're an organization and a buyer is looking at you, but they've not dealt with you before. Right? the first thing that they want to know is, what's this organization like?
Mm.
So I propose that the first thing you should get right is to have a tagline for your business
Yep.
that very clearly gives the buyer an impression of what they can reasonably expect from doing business with you.
Is that what you can call the value proposition?
No.
Okay.
It's just the tagline.
Okay.
Right? We'll talk about the value proposition in a minute.
Okay.
But the tagline should be also not a motherhood statement.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be like, we really care, or we really, we're the best, or something like that. And I'll give you an example of one that worked.
Yep.
So I've been dealing with this Australian provider of outsourced IT services.
Yep.
And they specialize in small and medium organizations.
Sure.
So they come in, they take over your IT systems and make sure that they're always up to speed and up to date, and they keep your IT safe and productive.
Yep.
Right? Now, I've been working with the owner in terms of what can we say about the organization that makes a customer realize what they can get from this organization, and basically what's the culture of the place, right? And we workshopped a few things around, and what we came up with in the end is the tagline: "We've got your back."
Nice.
Right, and it means several things. It means that even when you don't know that we're looking after your system because everything works, we've got your back. Right, so we can help you to focus on your business, and we'll take care of your IT.
Right.
And then if and when something goes wrong, then we're standing shoulder to shoulder with you to fix it up.
Right.
And we're not going to point the finger at something else and saying, "Oh, it's not our fault," and somebody else is.
Yep.
Somebody else.
Don't try to blame on it.
We'll have your back. Right. And so you need a tagline like that really expresses to the buyer what they think, what they can reasonably expect to experience from you. Yes.
Interesting. So, and that's quite a short tagline as well.
Well, the more succinct, the better. It's not War and Peace. And like I said, we'll come to the value proposition separately.
Yep.
But this is more about the anticipated experience.
And was it easy for them or for you to measure the impact of, because I guess they had a different tagline, or maybe they didn't have any.
They didn't have a
slogan or tagline at all.
No. And with all respect to the owner, that they're very geeky.
Yep. Yeah.
So
very techie.
Well, their instinct was to go towards technology and make it very jargony. And I said, no, but business owners that you're dealing with, they're coming to you because they're not techie.
Yep.
So
speak their language, not your language.
Speak their language. Yeah, let them understand what they're getting from you.
It's interesting how a lot of times you have to change your vocabulary and how you talk and how you what words you use to be able to relate to people and to the buyer as well.
Well, you should always relate to your buyer.
Yeah.
And further down the funnel, we'll talk about that as well. But the idea is that if you speak a different language to your buyer, then the buyer is not likely to engage with you.
Yeah.
So number 2.
Let's go on number 2.
All right. So number 2 is you must have a defined product or service that you're selling, or several services or products, right? And the reason I made that a point is that I used to actually work with an organization that was a $1 billion company in Australia in the IT space. And they kind of said, we can do anything, just ask us. And they didn't have a single product, that just had capabilities.
Yep.
But the mentality of the organization was, our customers know what they want. They will tell us what they want, and we'll build for them, and they get business that way.
Interesting.
Which made them hugely reactive. Right? There was very little proactivity in terms of reaching out to somebody who would like to buy this and that. So nothing was really productized, and it turned out to be a huge obstacle to the organization. Now, dealing with my customers, most of them have that under control.
Yep.
Right. But I've just put it in there as a bit of a checkpoint to make sure that is in place, because if you don't have that, the rest of the funnel becomes a bit wonky as well.
Shaky, yeah. So a defined product.
Be able to define what product or service you're selling.
Okay.
Right?
And so with the products or services, is there anything in the funnel, or do you maybe leave that to the business in terms of how broad or how niche
Okay.
It should be.
So I'll give you an example of a product. So I have a 6-week and a 12-week sales acceleration program.
Sure.
Right. So you know that over 6 weeks or 12 weeks, you will learn how to accelerate your sales in your organization. I'll build you a sales funnel. I'll build a sales process that works both in terms of inbound.
Yep.
So let people discover that you exist and then come to you.
Yep.
Draw them in.
Yep.
And also in terms of outbound, where you reach out to new prospects.
Yep.
To draw them into a meaningful customer conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a quite clearly defined product. Right?
Mm.
So I've productized the service. So it's a 6-week or a 12-week sales acceleration program. It's got a price attached to it, and you know what you're getting.
Mm.
Right? That's an example of a defined product.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. All right. The third step.
Number 3, right? Number 3 is
closer.
Yeah,
should be selling by now.
Number 3 is probably the most important point.
Sure.
And that is your value proposition and your USP, unique selling proposition. Right?
Mm.
So what you want to do is 2 things. One is you want to stand out from the rest of the crowd.
Yep.
Right? And forget who said it, but somebody said you got to be the purple cow in a field of brown cows.
Seth Godin?
Seth Godin, that's what.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always want to say Simon Sinek, but I knew it wasn't him.
Mm. I'm a fan. Actually, you know where he is? You know,
he's coming here. Yeah.
He's right there. Is he?
Oh, there.
he's
coming to Australia though.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe if I've been doing this podcast for a little bit longer, I would have tried to get him on.
Still try.
You reckon?
Yep. Anyway, so purple cow, field of brown cows.
Yep.
Right. So you've got to be able to succinctly inform your customer and make your customer aware of how you're different.
Yep.
That you're different and how you're different. Right? So that's one. But even more importantly, you must have a single sentence, a single line that engages your customer and draws them into a conversation. Right? And I call the moment when sorry, let me start again. If I reach out to you cold,
yep,
as a customer, whether it's on the phone, through an email, through an article, a podcast episode, whatever, you will probably be a bit skeptical in terms of whether it's a good use of your time to listen to what I'm saying.
Yep.
Right? So you may give me, I don't know, maximum 30 seconds.
Yep.
Before you decide whether I'm interesting or not.
Yep.
Right? So the challenge for the seller is there that within 30 seconds they need to come up with something that engages the audience, right? So we don't have time to talk about us and our organization, how large we are, how great we are, how many customers we have, how many locations we have around the world, and how important we are, and just going to buy from us, because by then the buyer goes.
Or, they might just be like, sorry, I have to go.
That's right. Yeah. So the key is, and I call this we syndrome, by the way.
We syndrome.
And we talk about we have this and we do that.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay.
And instead, what you must do is to say something to the customer that draws their attention. Right? And you must create what I call the lean forward moment.
Cool.
I call
the moment that you bring them into.
The lean forward moment is when they sit upright and they lean forward and they say, Ronnie, tell me more about that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the moment they have said, tell me more, they have actually given you their explicit permission to sell to them.
Yep.
Whether they know it or not, whether they realize it or not. But that's the point when they say,
I'm interested.
It's now okay for you to talk about yourself.
Yep.
Right? Not before. So the key is to say one thing that intrigues them to the point where they lean forward and say, tell me more. Right? And in my sales funnel, I'll workshop that with you in terms of what is that one line that you can use to get them interested. Because at the first point of contact, your job is not to sell. Your job is to intrigue and get them curious and bring them into the conversation so that they do lean forward and ask you to tell them more.
Well, on that note, you actually got me thinking, tell me more. You did. I like it. I really do. Obviously, being in marketing, I think also about sales. And, I always, knew that you've got to have a hook. I call it a hook, where you get someone interested, but that's a very deep way of and structured way of looking at it. So you got to have that one. Is it a line, or is it like maybe just, a couple of things that you have to line up and say within that first 30, within those 30 seconds to get them to lean forward?
So I try to make it a one-liner.
Yep.
Because that you can replicate that over a personal conversation, over a webinar, a Zoom call. You can put it on your website. You can put it into your emails, and it just becomes universally usable. The key, though, is that it must never sound artificial or strained. Right? So I always take into consideration the culture of the organization and the personality of the person I'm speaking to, usually the business owner, so that it sounds like them and not like me or somebody else.
And how personalized should it be for the person who's listening to that? So for the buyer. So if I'm talking to by X, by Y, by Z, that one-liner, how much of it should be personalized every single time I talk to a different person?
Okay, so this brings us to point 4.
And my questions are on point today. All right, let's go into
and that is because it must obviously be targeted at your ideal customer. So therefore, it becomes important to know who is your ideal customer.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the industry sector that they're in, the size of the organization, maybe the geography that they're in, but also then the exact title of the person that you want to reach out to. Like, are they in finance? Are they in sales? Are they in marketing? Are they in delivery? And anything else that you can use to clarify, to distill down in terms of the persona that you want to reach out to.
Got it.
Right? So once you know who your ideal client is, then you want to know where they are. Which is point 5. Right? So you say, okay, we know who we're targeting. Where do we find them? So you look at, where do they typically hang out? Whose content do they consume? Whom do they listen to? Right? So that you know where you can find them. Then once you know who they are and where you can find them, you need to know how to reach out to them. But even more importantly, you need to be able to engage them. Right? And so we're coming back to point 3, the value proposition and the one-liner. If you have that point 3 down pat, you obviously use that to then engage them and get them to lean forward and say, tell me more. Right? So points 4, 5, 6 are intricately connected. Then let's say we've engaged the customer. What comes into play? Will we be the only one that's talking to them?
Oh, there's probably 10, 20, I don't know, how it depends on what business is, but yeah, a lot of people reaching out as well.
There'll be competitors.
Of course.
Right? So point 7 is how to eliminate or set aside your competitors.
Destroy the competition.
Well, look, I've said, being in B2B cutthroat world, I've said, eliminate your competitors. But I've recently had some pushback on that term from the not-for-profit sector.
Oh,
yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Didn't think about that. and so that they're right. So they don't want to eliminate; they just want to show that they are the
distinguish.
Better That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So maybe I'll use that term in the future. Distinguish yourself.
Well, maybe that. But I think maybe you should personalize it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in an industry that's quite competitive, aggressive, eliminate
crush,
is
destroy. Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that, in my humble opinion. But I think you're right. In a non-for-profit, eliminate is probably soft and suitable. Anyway.
So it's, you need to understand how you can differentiate yourself against your competitors once you have engaged as well. That's probably even more important, because let's face it, in most sales situations, there's only going to be one winner and there's no prize for coming second. So you need to be able to differentiate yourself in a very specific way. So I teach my clients how they can do that. They can do that by raising a subject that your competitors will likely not raise, and in fact, they actively stay away from.
Controversial topics, or just things that your competitors will will not necessarily go into because of like a weakness in their strategy or.
No, I'm talking about a specific thing, and that thing is risk.
Interesting.
Most organizations, unless you're in a tender situation where they explicitly ask about risks, right? But most vendor organizations will say something like, all our customers are really happy, there's no risk here, everything's fine, trust us. Right? We're really good. Look how big we are. Look how many people we've got. Look how, how long we've been around. Right?
Yeah.
Just trust us. So what I teach my clients to do is actually to bring the subject of risk up proactively with their clients, right? And I play this little scenario with them that I don't mean verbatim, but you get the idea. So if I say to you, Rani, you're looking at making a buying decision here, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now you realize that in every purchasing decision that you make, there's an element of risk involved.
Yep.
So, Rani, would you like to know what the risks that you're exposing yourself to are, regardless of whether you buy from us or anybody else in making this purchasing decision?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Okay. So your risks are 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And the most basic risk, the one that applies to everybody, anybody and everybody, is you will not get what you think you're buying. It will not work, or it'll let you down, or it'll be different to what you think. You know? So the most basic common denominator is you'll spend money and you won't get the value from it. Right? But other than that, there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 risks you can think of that just exist because, well, the life is risky, right?
Yeah.
So you can then say, well, Mr. Customer, your risk is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And you would probably say, yeah, actually, that sounds right. So then I would say, Rani, would you like to know how we at my company mitigate those risks for you?
Of course.
Well, we do that by
1, 2,
3, 4, right? So what have I just done?
I think you've just called out concerns and things that every buyer would be worried about, but might not necessarily bring about to the conversation. And also, like you said, what your competitors might not go into. And you've established, I think what that's done is it made me feel that you're being realistic and you're not trying to sell anything to me, and you're just having a genuine, authentic conversation.
Plus, I'm on your side.
Yep.
Right. I'm thinking for you, thinking with you. I'm saying, I'm helping you to understand what this decision actually means for you. I also hopefully will have established a little bit of trust, because I'll be the only one bringing that up. But everybody else just says, no risk here, just trust us, right? Whereas I'm saying, look, realistically, this, and this, and this. And hopefully you'll say, oh, Peter's the only one that's brought that up. Nobody else has. What else does he know that the others aren't telling me? So I'm immediately creating
a gap,
a differentiator, but also a bit that you feel a bit more warmly towards me because I'm telling you stuff that the others haven't. And you feel a bit more suspicious about the other ones because you go, well, if they haven't told me that, what else haven't they told me?
That is very, very intelligent. So you're differentiating and setting a gap between you and your competitors. You're setting yourself apart just by one simple question/statement,
and by being customer focused. You know, so the other thing is that that none of them will bring that up, right? And it's actually to their detriment. You know? And so this is a super powerful way of earning the trust and
just talking on that. I feel like it's talking to them on a very, removing any sort of barriers or any facade, because like a lot of sales conversations, like you said, you're trying to portray that you're the best and that there is no risk at all with what you're providing, and this will make you fly, when it just makes you
just sign here, Mr. Customer.
Yeah, so every single buyer by now knows that someone who's selling something will over paint how great that product is.
Yeah.
And you're just bringing that conversation to a realistic expectation, which turns it into trust.
Yeah, look, the the key here is that the buyer will sense that I'm trying to help them, that I'm on their side. So,
Yeah.
so instead of us sitting across the table, I'm actually sitting next to you, and I'm saying, "No, right, this is the risk." Right? So I've repositioned myself to be on your side.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a very psychologically key.
Yep. Cool. So that was number 7.
Eliminate the customer, the competitors.
Yep.
Not the customer.
Eliminate the customer. Mr.
Anyway,
Customer, we don't need
anyway,
you.
moving on.
So that was number 7.
Yep. Number 8 is how to use your sales proposals to win the deal.
Cool.
And there are 2 aspects to that. So obviously, what goes into the proposals, like the content, is very important.
Yep.
Right? And I've got a way to talk to my clients about what should go in and how it should be presented and formatted.
Sure.
But the other part is possibly probably not quite more important, but just as important. And that is how you present the proposal.
Right.
Okay? So what would be the instinct of most salespeople when I say to you, Ronnie, can you send me a proposal? What would you think as a salesperson?
Amazing. Like, we're in. Woohoo! Yeah, we're in.
Yeah, we got a chance here, right?
But it's not really.
Well, hang on. So it might be if you're in, right? What would be the worst thing that you can do when somebody says, send me a proposal?
Is make the assumption that we're 100% in.
It's sending them the proposal.
Cool.
So counterintuitively, if somebody says, send me a proposal, the worst thing you can do is actually send them a proposal.
But you can't not send it forever.
Right, that's right. So because what happens once you send the proposal in? What happens to the control that you've had over
You kind of lose it.
Totally, right? How many times have you sent a proposal in and then there was crickets? Right? Nothing. You know? And you go, they read the proposal? Have they got it? Have they already decided and not told me? You know, and then you go, I want to talk to them. Start going, chasing them.
You get desperate. Yeah.
and then they go, well, this guy is desperate, so we might not buy from them, right? But the feeling that you're getting of it's lost control is just terrible for a salesperson, especially when they're on a sales target that they need to meet. Right? And this might be an important sale to bring them across the line. So back to the proposal. If I say to you, Barney, can you send me a proposal? Say this. Say, yes, Peter, I'd love to send you a proposal. It's very important to us that our proposal hits the mark and meets your expectations. Can we catch up at 2:00 next Thursday to go through the draft and just to make sure that it contains everything that you need? One of 2 things will happen. Either I'll say, that sounds good, Ronnie, let's do that. 2:00 on Thursday, we'll get together and we'll walk through the proposal together so that we can make sure that it meets our requirements. If I say that, what does it mean to you?
They're interesting.
Yeah, you're in with a chance. If I say to you, no, Ronnie, just don't worry about that, just send it in.
Just send it to me.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
They're just trying to collect some information and they want to compare that to, or maybe they're just not interested, or they're trying to use that as a way to put pressure on another vendor or another.
Or you might just be making up the numbers because they need to get 3 quotes. Right?
Yep.
So had you not asked that question, can we meet at 2:00 on Thursday? You would have never known whether you're in with a chance or whether you're just making up the numbers. So you're giving yourself another chance to understand where the customer's at. Right? Now, if the customer turns up at 2:00 on Thursday and goes through the proposal with you, they're actually helping you get the proposal right. And they might say to you, no, we didn't mean that. Sorry, there's a misunderstanding there. Let's just fix that up. Or they might say, no, we don't need that. But this bit is still missing. They're helping you write your proposal, right?
For free.
I've got a client in America who won a big deal that way. The client was hugely impressed that they took the time to take them through their draft proposal and make sure that it met their requirements.
Wow.
They saw it as an extra piece of service. They didn't see it as an extra piece of work.
Mm.
It adds value to them, right? But only if they're interested.
Yep.
Now, if they still insist and say, Rani, just send it in,
Mm.
you have two choices.
Mm.
One is you can send it in, then just cross your fingers and wait for the call, or you can take the high road. This is a risky strategy. And
yeah, there's risk on both sides,
and you need to weigh it off in terms of what how much risk appetite you have, right? But you could take the high road and you could say, Mr. Customer, if that's the case, we'd rather not bid because we feel comfortable if we can make sure that the proposal actually hits your requirements. That's pretty tough.
Bold as well.
Right? I'm kind of thinking if they say to you, just send it in, you're not in much of a chance anyway. And by insisting on your principles and saying, no, we make sure that it works for you, and we don't want to lower our standards, might actually give you the respect, enough respect for them to say, okay, let's catch up then, right?
Potentially.
So it may give you a third bite at the same cherry.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of context throughout the sales conversation of what happened, in the previous, 2-3 weeks or months or whatever, that can give you a lot of clues about them.
Absolutely.
How, if you were talking to the same individual, how they talk, how they, you would have picked up certain cues about, if they're interested in something they're saying, or if they're interested in, that you get all these body language cues that can help you understand when they said just send it, what they actually mean.
Yes.
And that can help you also minimize that risk.
You can read between the lines. And also you've probably by that stage gauged in terms of how far you can push this thing.
Yep.
Before they get cheesed off.
Yeah. And if a business was, so there's this concept that's called escalation of commitment. Not sure if you've heard about that, but I think it's a psychology sort of concept where probably used in sales and marketing, which is the more I get you involved through the process, the more interested and committed you are going to be to the end. So if someone who, if the sales process was a couple of short emails and a quick call, and then someone tells you just send it, that's very different than someone who, has been, in many, many meetings with you, and they feel like they've explained a lot to you, and then they just said, okay, well, just send it because, we have a meeting with the board now and we need to present it, for example.
If there's a time pressure perspective on it, then that's fine. But also if it's a repeat customer and they don't already know everything about you, you've done business with them before, you've had good results, they might just say, look, just send it in because we trust you, right?
Yep.
Not because you're just making up the numbers. That's a different reason.
Yep.
Right. So that was number 8.
Yep.
Number 9.
Man, I'm sad this is almost over with the 12 steps.
Number 9 is how can you create a superior during and post-purchase experience for the customer.
Okay.
Right? And the reason that I bring in customer experience is that I read this statistic by IBM and a company called Lee Resources. And they said that, they actually said 2 things. One is that 80% of CEOs, when asked, does your organization provide a superior customer experience, will say, yes, we do. 80%. Right? How many of their customers agree?
Probably 20.
8%.
Ooh.
Right? So there's this huge skew towards optimism in the CEO's mind that they're saying, look, we're providing a superior customer experience, and the word is superior means better than other people, right? But the customers, only 8% of customers agree because they can see the organization from the outset. They have the experience and they know what they're getting. Right? The other one is how many customers who have had a negative buying experience with you will actually tell you. So let's say you go into a cafe, order a cup of coffee arrives, you take a sip and you go, blah.
Yeah.
That's terrible. how many out of 100 people, how many people will on average tell the waitress or the waiter or the barista that the coffee is bad and ask them to?
I would say the minority.
How many? In terms of out of 100 people.
You're asking me really hard questions.
Just take a 20%? Guess. 4.
Okay.
So 4, this is according to Lee Resources and IBM, 4% of customers will say, look, the coffee wasn't very good. Can you make me another one or give me my money back? Right? 96% will just quietly leave the cafe, never come back, and tell all their friends not to go there because the coffee is bad.
And maybe put some online reviews as well.
Online, amplified through social media, absolutely. But now that puts it into perspective just how important customer experience is, right? Because the 96% won't tell you that they had a bad experience, and you won't know, and you just go, why is my business going bad? Right? So providing a superior customer experience is hugely important, especially now when people are sensitive about all sorts of other things, and really differentiate your business if you doesn't experience.
Customers king and queen.
Fine.
Cool.
Coming to
number 10. Number 10, my lucky number. Wow.
And that is how can you turn your customers into advocates?
Love it.
Right? So the best business you can get is referral business, right? It's already pre-qualified. It's not advertising. It's not paid for. It's somebody who has experienced your business,
your product, your service.
Hence point 9, customer experience, right? But they now will give you, not only will they give you repeat business because they like dealing with you, they're getting a good result, they're getting value for money, they enjoy what they're getting from you, but also they will turn into fans and advocates of your business, and they will tell other people to do business with you as well because they've had such a great experience.
Yep.
Right? So number 10 comes out of number 9. It says, how can you turn your customers into advocates? How can you get more repeat business from them as well as referral business?
Yeah, I mean, customer advocacy is, I think, one of the most important. And even in marketing, when I talk about, marketing strategy with my clients, one of the most important things I always talk about is turning customers into loyal customers, people that will go out of their way to, talk about you in different platforms, be it social media, reviews. Reviews is a huge thing that a lot of people don't understand how important they are. And I don't have a stat like you do, but the whole concept about reviews is happy people, happy customers will not go out of their way as much as upset and pissed off customers when it comes to reviews. So reviews by default will get skewed against you. So this is why providing a very good customer experience becomes instrumental, because you'll then tap into something that don't often happen, which is having people going out of their way and talking in great way about you.
So you've just said something very interesting, that you said the most reviews that you see online or in social media are actually negative, right? Because they're cheesed off. But the key is they're cheesed off and they're telling everybody else, but they've not told the business, right? The business doesn't know until they see the review and they say, oh, didn't know that.
Yep.
Right? So that's why it's important to monitor your customers' happiness as well.
Of course.
Yeah. So those were the 10 points in the modern sales funnel. That's actually a buying funnel to help you be drawn into a conversation, into a sales conversation with you, learn to trust you, to learn that you are the right solution for them, and to help, or for you to help them to make an informed decision to buy from you. So it's probably when you listen to the 10 points, you probably think it's not really rocket science, right? But how many organizations are actually looking at the sales process from the customer's perspective?
First of all, I think it's rocket science.
Thank you.
No, I think it's great. I think it's very methodical. Every step builds on top of each other and feeds from the previous one. And it takes a different important box to the entire strategy or mechanism of selling. And I love the whole idea of it being very, very customer focused.
And as I said at the beginning, it works for inbound, so to drawing a customer in, discovering that you exist and drawing them into, getting them interested and drawing them into a conversation, as well as outbound, where you reach out to your prospect and make clear to them why they should be interested in dealing with you.
I think we should, at one point, you're in sales, you're a master of your craft. I'm in marketing. I like to think that I know what I do. So how about we look into maybe at a different time, look into how we can, and I'm sure you probably already did that at some point, but interweave a lot of different and interesting marketing tactics and strategies with this funnel. And you said at the start that you're more into B2B, not B2C. I'd like to also kind of, because I'm very into B2C. I have some background in B2B, but more so B2C. And I'd like to think, because I see a lot of things that, not all, from this funnel that we can take into the B2C context. And stack with on top of that, the marketing activities, be it advertising, marketing, technology, automation, content, the whole thing, and how we can come up with a very strong B2C sales model.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually have a customer whose business is B2B2C. And they asked me to help them out with the B2C part of it. And I said, look, it's not really my expertise. I don't know that. But specifically what they wanted me to do is to deal with their we syndrome.
Yep.
Right? So if you take a look at the time at their website, every single paragraph would start with "we do this" or "our organization does that," or "brand name does that," right? And I said, look, you really got to stop talking about yourself, and you got to talk about what's your customers. Right?
Sure.
And they said, oh, can you help us with that? And I went, oh, well, look, this is really the B2C part. I'm not really a big expert in that. And they said, look, just do it anyway. Right? And they had a lot of pages on their website.
Yep.
And so I went through each one of the pages on the website, and I helped them turn the vocab around from "this is how great we are" to "this is the value that our customers experience." And the CEO afterwards said to me, "What are you talking about? You're not an expert in this. You're very good at it." So you're right that some aspects of the modern sales funnel can be translated into B2C as well.
Now, which one of these books is what we just discussed?
Probably neither.
Okay.
If out of the two books, one called The One Team Method and the other one called Smarketing, Sell Smarter, Not Harder, probably the Smarketing book is the more relevant one. These two books are actually about the principle that sales and marketing should not operate in silos.
Yep.
They should collaborate. And the key to them collaborating is not that they have separate metrics and KPIs, which creates the funnel. Which creates the silo. But to actually have a common goal, common focus, and possibly common metrics, so that the collaboration happens naturally. And are you familiar with Neil Rackham?
Sorry, Neil
Rackham?
No.
Familiar with spin selling? Okay, it's probably a little bit before your time.
Yeah.
So Neil Rackham was the first person to analyze what makes a successful salesperson successful.
Sure.
And then he came up with a sales, one of the first sales methodologies that were actually quite structured.
Yep.
Right? And he did that by observing successful salespeople in organizations like Xerox Corporation and IBM back in the 70s and 80s. But he postulated that interestingly, customer centricity was an element, and that the good salespeople were actually taking an interest in solving problems for the customer rather than just pushing the products.
Yep.
And he created a sales methodology to that.
Yep.
And it's been refined over the years, but it's still relevant today. Anyway, the reason I mentioned Neil Rackham is that I sent him a copy of my book, and I asked him, what do you make of, because I'm proposing a structured methodology to help sales and marketing teams in same organization to work together more effectively towards a common outcome that is improving the customer experience and delivering a better sales result for the organization. And he said this to me. He said, Peter, this is the only methodology I'm aware of that's actually structured and size. Everybody else just says, guys, just work it out. Right?
Yeah.
So everybody says, look, this is ridiculous. You're not talking to each other. Just work it out. Right. But it never happens.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm hugely chuffed that authority like Neil Rackham firstly says no one else has done this.
Yeah.
But also endorses this one and says this is the only methodology I'm aware of that actually makes it concise and structured.
That is a great testimony, an endorsement. So I'll just show it one more time. Now, if anyone is interested in getting a copy, how do they get a copy?
So both books are available in Amazon stores.
Yep.
In 13 countries around the world.
Beautiful. And maybe they can just search. Now, how do you say your last name?
It's Peter Strohkorb.
Strohkorb.
Yeah. And the website is peterstrohkorb.com.
Cool.
There's a page there just for the books.
Sure.
Or you can just type my name into the search field on Amazon and my name will come up.
It's not a very common name anyway. So if you even go to Google and search for it, you'll find.
So as far as I'm aware, there's only 2 Peter Strohkorbs in the world. And
really?
The other one's my dad.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, I would like to thank you very much for sharing.
Can I just add one thing?
Of course.
So for any one of your listeners who's interested in now evaluating their own sales funnel versus the customer-focused one,
yep.
On the website at peterstrohkorb.com/sales-acceleration, there is a link to a checklist.
Cool.
That you can do in your own time for free, nobody looking over your shoulder. You can assess for yourself in terms of how close am I to this new modern customer-focused sales funnel.
Sure.
Where are my gaps and where I'm perhaps already doing the right things.
Yep. So, and how long does that take?
It takes maybe 10 minutes.
Cool. Yeah.
It asks you very succinct questions and you answer them your own way, right? But that's not all. The set of steak knives is that I will make myself, if you want to, I'll make myself available for in a half-hour Zoom call.
Yep.
To go through your findings, and I will try in the call to help you resolve one of the challenges that you have identified yourself. And I do that for a simple reason that you don't know me, you don't know how I work, you don't know whether there's a good fit for us to work together, and that gives us the opportunity to get to know each other, and you can then decide whether you'd like to do business with me. It's kind of like a try before you buy type exercise. And I'm happy to do it because, let's face it, there's now, thanks to the pandemic, there's thousands of former corporate executives out there calling themselves consultant, and you never know what you're getting. So I'm giving you the opportunity to experience what you're getting, and then you can make an informed decision in terms of whether you want to buy. That's right.
Cool. Well, yeah, that sounds fair enough. I'm sure anyone who's watching and they have a need, they'll get in touch. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. A lot of insights. I love the funnel, and yeah, I can't wait to start putting it into practice.
By all means, let's talk. Thanks, Ronnie. Great to be here.
Thanks, Peter.
Go.